Hello, welcome to Module 3. You are in the home stretch, my friend, of the strategy course known as Social Media Strategy. So, speaking of strategy, as well as some tactics, let's start tying things together here. I want to present to you an overall formula that we're going to build on in course number 2, but that you're starting to put the pieces together for, whether you realize it or not. So we're going to talk about key messages, some of the very important high-level messaging that are absolutely imperative to know and then start to communicate probably a little better than you're currently doing, that people have to know about your business and you have to get across in your promotional and marketing efforts. And then the monthly themes, tying those integral sales and marketing themes together so that they make sense and that they support one another, and just giving us something to talk about on a monthly or quarterly basis if you can't do monthly. Then the all-important content pillars. This is something that we have, staked ourselves deeply into here at Social School for years. The idea of content pillars, then content categories, and then content types. But the pillars and categories are what are unique to us, and categories are a bit universal, but essentially the buckets that we're going to divide our content into to help with variety as well as achieving our goals. We want to make sure that we're covering our bases and not talking about just one particular area of our business or our people or our values. And we also don't want to just push content out that's sheerly promotional. We got to back up, get a little deeper, and content pillars really help us do that. From there, what is your marketing mix? So your social channels, yes, but what other pieces are coming into play here in your digital marketing plan for the year ahead? And how do we make those things sing really nicely together? And finally, the old budget, not just financial, but time, getting really realistic about what it's going to take to pull this off, and to layer in all the additional learning that's ahead for you if you're with us for the certificate program, when we get deeper into that content writing and publishing, as well as the process piece of it all. Who's managing it? Who's running the show? Who's acting as director? And who's, creating the beautiful content that we need to bring to life? Or is it you entirely? And then, the graphic design pieces specifically, and the photo and video, and then the ad campaigns, all of these additional courses that we're going to be adding in, not to overwhelm you, to learn more and then decide what is a priority for you, what can you execute in-house, and what do you need to perhaps seek some support with, and what's it going to cost. All right. So the old content formula, I shouldn't call it old because it's pretty new for us and we're really excited about this. These are pieces. In fact, there's 7 steps, 7 pieces that we have drafted here at Social School as a formula that's basically getting you to the finish line. It's not just about crafting strategic content and resonating with your audience. It's about getting it done. So much of this is process because, as we know, you can have the greatest ideas in the world and all the audience targeting plans, but if you don't actually pull it off month over month consistently, forget it. Your gains are going to be very minimal. Consistency is key. And we know this isn't easy. It's very time consuming. It may not be rocket science, but it's time consuming. And thus we have to commit to a process. Okay, so the first 4 in the 7-step content formula we are covering in this course, and you're already well on your way. We're gonna overview these 4 right now. And then the final 3 are really covered next week or in the next course, content writing and publishing, if you're sticking around with us for that. Don't worry if you're not. If this is where our journey ends, you're still going to get a lot out of these first 4 steps. And if you feel the need to then, pull together a process for making it happen, the final 3 steps are really going to matter for you. So step A, declaring your company's 5 to 10 must-know key messages. This is like Corporate Communications 101 or PR 102. What are those things that people need to know that you're probably burying too deep or you assume it's a given? Do not assume. We know what happens when you assume. You make an ass out of you and me, in case you forgot. But really, you're just assuming that we understand your business model, what you sell, what you do, who you are, what makes you unique, all of those things that are pretty self-explanatory in your head, maybe, but not to the everyday user who's never heard of you before, doesn't speak your language, and is giving you this much of their attention. They need to know immediately who you are and what you do, and then decide if they want to work with you. Key messages also act as fantastic jump-off points. They're like little mini springboards for campaigns, blog posts, videos, keystone content, which we're going to talk about. The old keystone, my favorite. Step B, also known as 2, determine your major milestones, events, and happenings for the year ahead. This isn't just those monthly themes that we're going to look at. That comes next. These are like overarching important things that if you had to plot them out on a calendar, you would pinpoint 5 to 10, maybe less. But what are those openings, launches, hiring, expansions, campaigns, meaningful trade shows, live events, anything that is meaningful to you and your business and what you are able to perhaps create some content around or that you should be teeing up to. And if you don't have brick and mortar store and you don't have staff, well, what can you tie your wagon to? Are there some of those more universal campaigns that are broad, like International Women's Day and Christmas, or that are industry specific, like Lung Health Month or Bike to Work Week, that you can really kind of create some content around and call your own and again, have as a springboard or a leaping point. Step 3. What are the monthly sales and marketing themes? This gets a little bit more granular. So, okay, I need to make my budget by February, or Black Friday is huge for us. So we have to back out of that for a few months and thinking of sales. What other kind of revenue targets or internal themes could you be working towards each month? And it might be the same as what we just suggested in your big milestones, events, and happenings. But chances are they're a little bit different, as are your marketing themes. Just because the month of September is all about your back to school shopping sales or whatever, dental hygiene promotion, doesn't mean that your marketing theme that month is the exact same, because probably you've had to tee that up for a couple months or weeks in advance of that. And maybe your marketing theme is the same for an entire quarter as you launch a new product, open a new store, but your sales themes or conversations or even just kind of internal goals are slightly different month by month. You'll see it on the calendar. It'll all make sense, but these are all important pieces of our strategic plan. Next up, we're determining 3 to 4 content pillars that are unique to our business alone, if possible. They make sense. They're what we can divide our content into for variety and to reach our goals and mandates. And then the content categories that are more universal. I've talked about some of them already, those how-tos, did you knows, top 10s, Q&As that really add some spice into those content pillars. And again, keep people wanting more. It creates curiosity, delight, and just fun content. Step 5, which will be covered again in course number 2, is what we like to call the keystone content topics. Once we have in this course, big goal here, we can't leave this course until we've got 4 pillars, 3 to 4, but if you can have 4, the math works really well. Then what we're going to be doing is coming up with 13 topics for each of those pillars. So if one of my major pillars is digital marketing, well, I could probably come up with 13 topics that I could talk about within that. If you don't have them yet, no worries. Next week, we have leading questions to pull things out of you as brilliant content topics or keystone content topics that act as that keystone piece of content, like a blog or a video or something more substantial. Maybe it's a live video, maybe it's a reel, sure. But what happens is all of the other content drips from that main keystone piece, and AKA content repurposing or distribution. So what we're going to do is have a keystone topic that we can really leap from, and then it's going to serve us well across other channels. You'll see it all come together. For now, our goal is to come up with our pillars and then start to think about some subtopics that we could write about within those pillars. Don't worry about the categories, those come later. Just subject matter, juicy stuff that people need to hear from us. What are you asked about the most often? What could you talk about for days in that particular pillar? What are some misconceptions you'd like to clear up? What are some big industry news or facts or stats around that pillar that you can write some content or create some video about, etc.? Again, we'll pull those out of you next week. Stop getting ahead of yourself, Kelly. So step 6, we're going to drop 52 topics into the content bank. You're going to have just a sort of a workbook version of this content bank that's a written version, but we're also in course 2 providing you with our super exclusive and awesome content planning tool. It's built in Trello. Excuse me. It's kind of a beautiful template. I must say it took us a long time to build. I'm going to say 10 years to get it to where we love it, where it's got all of these pieces layered into this template. It's a tool. You map out your pillars and your messages and your frequency and platforms, and then your topics, and the whole thing just kind of comes to life in a really amazing 12 months of content, or 52 weeks. So the content bank gets pretty key. But then it's the process. This is all part of week 2, course number 2, where we nail what it is going to take and how we bring this to life. And we do it in what we call the NICER method, where we name, ideate, create, edit, and then we reach. So we practice some of the boosted posts. But NICER gets it done. We do it a month in advance, week by week. Week 1, we do this. Week 2, we do that. And in 60 minutes a week, you too can activate your content plans in a painless way and a really effective way too. But before we get into process and automation tools and activation, we of course are still in the heart of the quality content that we are destined to create. The powerful messaging that complements and works with our forward planning. All right, so back to those key messages. These are like your ride or die rally cries, the things that we need to know if we're going to buy from you or engage with you or share your stuff. What do you do for people? Okay, but what do you really do for people? So getting a little bit deeper and more meaningful and emotionally connected. Again, some of those questions like, what do you asked about the most often? What do you wish people better understood about your business or your industry, your products and services, your return policy, your people, your purpose? So much juicy stuff in there. And then what are you most known for or proud of or good at? What are those transformational moments that people remember you for, or that they talk about years later, or that they share with others? It could literally be something as quick as, or as simple as your speed of delivery or your customer service or your mascot. Who knows? But either way, these can be key messages. And if we don't know them and our entire team doesn't know them either, we have a problem. Then the next part of this is that editorial calendar. So we're starting to think about the 6 to 12 events, milestones, and happenings that are most important to our business in the year ahead and when they occur. And then part 2, what similar things, happenings, events, milestones, seasons, whatever, are important to our customer and when do they occur? The simplest version of this is a print magazine. Pick your favorite print magazine, Dwell Magazine, Avenue Calgary, New Homes and Gardens, Vogue. Let's go with Vogue. They have specific issues. We all know the September issue is the runway, thick, big, fat issue, right? Or in maybe a more varied magazine like Avenue, we know that they have their best neighborhoods issue, their top restaurants issue, their top 40 under 40 issue, their Christmas issue. Well, if we were to ask for their rate card as an advertiser or potential advertiser, not only would we see the editorial calendar month by month of issue by issue, what those magazines are going to be themed around, but we would also see the advertising schedule. And if I want to get my housing ad into the best neighborhoods issue, well, that's my marketing, or that's my sales goal. And here's the marketing theme. So there's kind of an editorial calendar for the content, and then there's an editorial calendar or simply a calendar for the advertisements that need to be slotted in there and that are going to align and complement. So this is sort of where we get the term editorial calendar from, and magazines have been practicing this for years. The point here is that the monthly themes can go really far and that there's a sales aspect to them as well. So marketing meets sales, and if we can align what our customer wants to read and hear about at that time with our sales goals and our, how we can kind of also be a bit promotional at that time, amazing. We might just hit some goals. People want to shop at Christmas season or back to school or Black Friday. Well, it goes without saying that we're going to tee up to that and meet them where they are with our spectacular offerings. All right, it's your turn. We're almost near the end here, but exercise 7 and 8 are going to have you crafting your key messages as well as thinking about your monthly sales and marketing themes. So if you can come up with 10 one-liners, they don't have to be public-facing, perfectly perfected and polished taglines. These are just messages of what you do, who you are, what you need people to know. There's some examples and kind of prodding points at the bottom there for you to lean on, but come up with these and let's build on them from here. Next up, those monthly themes of sales and marketing focus if you could pinpoint one per month. And maybe you want to do it by the quarter, that's okay too. But just starting to think, if you were to have a calendar in front of you and you were to drop in sort of some of the events and happenings throughout your year, when do they take place? Do you notice any gaps? Is summer wide open for you? Are you starting to think about some campaigns or other existing events and causes that you could align with? If you've in fact got some room in March to align with International Women's Day, what could you do around that? Does that make sense for your brand and business values and purpose? Or, what's January going to have this year that's different than before? Because it's wide open and no one's talking much or selling much because, well, we're all broke, but also Christmas is over. But things are a little quieter and there's room there to start layering in some cool stories. So starting to think that through and seeing where you get to. Final piece of the puzzle here in our social media strategy course, those content pillars and categories that are so integral for storytelling done right. The distinct themes, essentially, of our stories and our content, but also of our business. What we have is what we want people to say and do and feel and share. This is the classic CEO saying, we need 52 press releases to go out this week because we got lots of news to share and we're going to shove it down people's throats. Well, that's what you want people to read and write about and convene on and, share. But then there's what people want to say and do and feel and share on social or in their news feeds or their inboxes. And what we're trying to find is that blend in the middle where it's what we need to get across, but done in a way that feels like it's what people are dying to consume or get more of or open up and share. The sweet spot. These are some very generic content pillars, the age-old educate, inspire, entertain. If you're unable to come up with some on your own, here's your fallback. And these are great. Nothing wrong with these three. You could even add in promotional if you wanted to. But essentially that idea that education, that's your thought leadership, your storytelling, your insights and expertise that you need to have as a piece of your content. Then there's the inspire piece that's aspirational. It evokes emotion. It's inciting action and share-worthy storytelling or those dinner party conversations that hey, did you hear? Did you see that thing? It's inspirational. Then there's the entertaining side. And it doesn't have to be, rom-com type entertaining. It could be documentary entertaining. It could be just anything that, again, inspires awe or laughter or emotion, intrigue. What is it that people are tuning into, can't turn away, that is part of your content? Okay, that is some examples, but if you can come up with your own, even better. Maybe it's something like laugh, learn, connect, inspire. Some examples here are a little bit more content for you about what those pillars would entail and what kind of content you might create. These are pretty universal still, a little bit generic, but that's okay. If this works for you, fine, by all means. Other examples, advocate, support, connect, community. Maybe that's a nonprofit. Or maybe if you can't quite wrap your head around those more emotional pillars, maybe it's more product and service based, and that's okay. We've gone both ways in our business at different times, where sometimes it's themed around digital marketing, social marketing, people, culture, community, and other times it's websites, social, digital, SEO. And then we get emotional once we're in the SEO side, if that's possible. But thinking about, for example, a retailer, maybe it's a flooring company. And they're like, listen, I can't do educate, entertain, inspire, but I can do commercial, residential, renovation. That makes sense to me. And you think, okay, great. And in fact, that's exactly the entry portals on your homepage. So it's a really nice complement. That if I'm looking for residential flooring, I'm going here. And if I'm looking for commercial flooring, you get the idea. So if you would rather do it based on your product categories, no problem. Thinking about what makes the most sense for you, you can always evolve this, but try to nail in on your best buckets that you possibly can. Here's an example of, like I said, where we've been, where it's not equal either. So don't feel like you have to have a perfect quarterly mix. You can have maybe half of your content. For us, of course, it would cover social media and digital marketing, trends, stats, features, platforms, and insight, right? All that educational stuff. Then maybe culture, community, and people is a bit more entertaining, where we show our students, our alumni, our faculty. We focus on case studies and success stories, and we take you on the road to our conferences, or we're in the class behind the scenes, etc. And then maybe the small business and entrepreneurship piece is a little bit more of our aspirational content. And it's focusing on small businesses, startups, entrepreneurship, dreamers, doers, innovators, etc. And then we have a piece there that's promotional and sales and product related that we feel we can't spice into the other buckets. We want to have a dedicated promotional or product related piece of the pie where we can explicitly talk about a new course that just launched, or an upcoming sale, or a conference that's 2 weeks from now, or whatever it is. All right. We've got our content pillars. Those live at the top. Those are the big buckets. And then within that, each of those pillars can pull from the same categories that resonate the most with you. I've mentioned these a lot already. Some additional ones: Mythbusters, always fun. Roundups or best ofs, trends and tips, those stats and facts. Listicles go a long way. There's a reason that they're so buzzworthy and we still see them all the time. So don't be afraid to get really interesting in the way you deliver your content. As we all know, you're flipping through your favorite magazine and you see, an interview written as questions and answers, and it just makes you want to read it. If nothing else, too, the text is broken up and it looks different than a long form article, which can be epic to read, and it's overwhelming because my goldfish size attention doesn't read long form anymore. Or maybe it's done in illustrations or imagery or sound bites, like a infographic where I pull some facts together, and instead of writing it as a blog or a long video, I just make a quick infographic in Canva. So content categories, like I said, can be applied across each of your pillars, and they really do make it easier to digest your content so that it's not all in the exact same style and format. The third piece of that is content types. You'll sometimes hear us referring to that. And really what that is like, is it a photo? Is it a carousel? Is it a video? Is it a podcast? So that's that third layer of variety, but you don't have to worry too much about that now because it depends on the platform that you're putting it on. All right, your turn. So what we've got is a couple examples for you in your workbook of those foolproof sample content pillars and kind of what they do, and that tiny middle piece of promotional content. Use it sparingly, or as I said, disguise it with a pillar. I can write an educational piece about, LinkedIn Live and do it with a colleague as an interview or something like that, or as a demo behind the scenes video. I'm trying it out. And really what I'm selling people on is my new LinkedIn course, but I've added that promotional content, or I've hidden it in a pillar. So it's not just straight up, buy my course, come to this event. Hey, we're live at the trade show. See you down here. It just doesn't work. You got to disguise it and fool us a little bit. Next, a demo just of those content category ideas with a little bit more meat for you on why demos or tutorials are so powerful, or product reviews or interviews. Are there some of those that resonate for you? Maybe 5 or 6 that you think I can really do that often and, cycle through these in my content. So your exercise there is to lay down your pillars, 3 or 4 of them if you can, and then some of the primary content categories that you would like to start utilizing. Because when we pull together our social content bank, you're gonna do one of each. So if you had 3 pillars, or maybe 4, as I said, for the 52, because 4 times 13 topics equals 52 weeks of content. So I have 4 pillars, and I have 6 go-to content categories, and I can then easily create 24 pieces of content, 1 for each of those with each category. All right, final piece. We're rounding the bend for real. Marketing tactics. So this is where we're just starting to remember and remind ourselves that there is more to our marketing mix than just social. And we need to prioritize first and foremost what has to happen. What is the lowest hanging fruit that you need to address in your digital marketing mix? Maybe even before you dive in and reinvest in your social feeds in a new way. So what trends, tactics, or just straight up, needs do you have to try out or commit to in the coming year? If you're not straight up thinking like, I just got to rewrite my key messaging and taglines and copy, or I need a website overhaul, well, maybe you want to think you're further down your road and you want to think about some influencer or partnership marketing. Super powerful. Maybe it's, again, blogging, that long form, rich content that can act as a fantastic piece of keystone content that then your social posts drip out of like they're writing themselves, because they are. Maybe it's a podcast if you believe that's where your audience is and you can make some inroads there, because the power of voice and guest speakers and recurring episodes is perfect for you. Email marketing, don't get me started. So important. The power of the inbox cannot be overstated, especially in the world of increasing privacy, which we're seeing in our iOS updates. The lessened ability to retarget people because they've amped up their privacy settings. Well, guess what? This is where email marketing is making a resurgence, because that is an owned channel. You own that list. No algorithm or platform or billionaire is going to take that away from you and change the rules or someone's privacy setting. Generally, if you can reach them in their inbox, you can reach them in their inbox. They might unsubscribe, but we can get very clever with email marketing. So I really encourage you to have that as a piece of your marketing mix if you don't already. Partnerships and collaborations, offline experiences and live events. That could be anything from a pop-up to a conference attendance to whatever. Automated messaging can be pretty powerful. So AI and just like chatbots or customer service that goes to the next level and really meets people where they are quickly. Video content, SEO, digital advertising, lots of pieces there. We go into all of these in our digital marketing certificate. That's why it's there, to build on your social. But again, just thinking about what of these resonate for you and where you may want to consider getting things off the ground at the same time. Just a quick couple examples here. An offline experience. Chroma was a really neat show. It was actually an art collective that was curated by Park, which is a very neat fashion kind of and culture collective in Calgary. And they launched it with local creators and businesses, and they basically showcased it at a local shopping center. And it was so interactive, and it was really neat because you saw these kind of up and coming and also recognized local artists of all stripes creating these super interesting pop-ups and installations. And so it was really fun to take in and to see everyone from like Crave cupcakes to, famous handbag designers doing their thing. And it really went a long way for everybody who was involved, garnered a lot of attention. It was finally just something real and tangible at a time where everything's online, just about. Email marketing. As I mentioned, we have an entire 360 series course for this that gets so deep into different campaign types and the 3 campaign types that everybody needs if you're email marketing, from lead generation, capturing email addresses and maybe enticing them to give you it, to nurturing them if they're regular subscribers, and then segmenting and tailoring the content to them so you get them to take action. And then the third one is the fulfillment campaigns, where, okay, they've bought now, or they attended that. What are you going to do now with that information? And how are you going to continue getting them coming back around? So incredibly powerful. You have your own examples of that in your inbox of emails you love to open, whether it's because the subject line is cheeky and interesting every time, or those emojis get you, or it's just interesting long form articles from someone you trust and love. Or maybe there's deals or incentives or beautiful imagery and inspirations, whatever it is. It could just be your food menu of suggested family dinners for the week. But either way, it's likely adding some kind of value to your life, a transformation of some sort that makes it worthwhile for you to open it and stick around as a subscriber. Partnership marketing, I've glazed over this very briefly, but the opportunities here are enormous. And I'm just going to sum it up by saying that in this era of distrust, which Google that and you will see 1,700 articles written about, the lack of trust and the shrinking amount of trust and loyalty and all of that in our day-to-day lives. And who we trust, it's the people that we believe in or that we know or that we feel like we know, whether those are micro influencers or major celebrities, whether it's partners with like-minded brands and entrepreneurs or industry, colleagues like the local brewers example. There's so many ways we can partner in order to get our message heard louder. And the benefits can be tenfold, not just because you've partnered with a celebrity and it costs you a lot of money, but because you've partnered with somebody local, like that very connected lady in your kid's grade 2 class who's going to tell everybody about what you're doing. And before you know it, you have 1,000 true fans, as the Seth Godin theory goes. So thinking about partnership marketing, if you can, it doesn't have to mean major bucks and major influencers. It can be these micro partnerships that can go a really long way. And then video content. I have to put this in here as the final slide of this course, because if we're not thinking about video and getting more real and raw and accessible and human and trustworthy and all those things, we're missing an enormous piece of our marketing. We're operating with one hand tied behind our back because that's what people want from you. I don't care how corporate and staid you are. Your CEO has something to say, and she needs to start pulling back the curtains and letting us in to understand this brand better, or it will become overrun, or I was going to say trumped, but I hate saying that, but essentially beat out by those who are willing to tell their story a little bigger and broader. I often hear this from realtors, to be honest, and it's frustrating in any industry, but for whatever reason, I hear it more often from realtors who know they've been in the game longer. They know their stuff better. They're better at closing the deal and working for their customers and understanding the market, blah, 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 blah. But they're getting usurped by these upstarts who have a sweet Instagram channel or some sort of Facebook Live streaming thing of their new houses and their funnel campaign on getting new realtors, and it's a multi-level marketing scam of a brokerage and blah, blah, blah. Sure, I feel for you. I do. I get it. However, that's the world we now live in. And it's not to say you have to show up and dance like a monkey on TikTok. Not a chance. But you have to show up. You have to be present. If you build it, they will come does not work anymore, if ever. Maybe it only did in that one weird movie with the baseball diamond. But I'm telling you, if you build it, you've got to then share it and be openly willing to give of yourself and your content and your ideas and insights, and it will come back tenfold. And it doesn't have to cost much. And if you're not comfortable being it on video, how else could you do it in voice with stories where you're always filming outwards, but you're taking people on a journey, you're showing them what you're doing, and you're just letting your guard down and not being so concerned about doing it perfectly. Let go of the fears and judgments. I'm telling you, this is where we need to recognize that our people want us to lead them. There's a book called Tribes by Seth Godin that's one of my favorites. It's probably not the most appropriate word anymore because we're evolved, but it talks about attracting people to you that are like-minded and that want what you have in the world. And that if you're willing to lead us, we will follow you and we will love you for it. But show up and be real. And that's the first step. Video can do it really well. If it's not going to be video, find other ways to do it. You can do it. And of course, we can do this all through many planning tools that we're going to continue to get into. So the content calendar is coming, as is that Trello template that I mentioned that's going to help you place your keystone topics and all of your pillars and categories into a digital planning tool, which is very helpful. And then from there, bring it to life. The last thing I'm going to say is, again, just thinking of the sustainability message. Sorry, it's not sustainability. It's what's sustainable. Is this doable for you long term? Whatever you come up with. And this is where I have to suggest that you have your ideas in place and then you scale it back 50%, because you can always add on. But the worst thing to do is start off and running with a new social or digital marketing plan and then fall off the map 4 weeks later because it's way too much and it's taken over your life. And I can attest to this, and I hear it daily. So we need to start with what is doable and sustainable in the long run, and then add in the pieces or further leverage the ones that are really working and continue to build on those. Just as a general rule of thumb, how much to spend? We're asked this all the time. Here you go. This is what the textbooks will tell you. And I don't disagree with it. You've got to make this your own. But on the whole, when we're thinking about that paid content or those like financial investments in our marketing, yes, there does need to be something there, or you're speaking to no one if you're not getting seen. You're doing so much to level up your content, your storytelling, your audience segmenting and communication efforts, but you're not actually getting seen. It's that tree in the forest that nobody hears when it falls over. And so if we can allocate some of those financial resources to boosted content, ad campaigns, partnerships, maybe a little bit of print, whatever it is that's worthwhile for you, great. Then we want to think about the digital marketing sphere as a whole, and the social media budget within it is a little bit, digital, of course, is broader. So we're lumping more resources, time and money into that. And then, of course, social is a piece of that as well, just a little bit smaller of our overall budget. What are the missing pieces in there? You can fill in the gaps on that, because everybody's plan is unique. It could be personnel, it could be print, it could be computers and supplies, it could be technology, it could be whatever. Overall, just getting real about the time and money it does take to do this well. And if you can start to see a return on your spend, I'm going to say your hard spends on paid campaigns and content, as well as maybe paid bloggers or photographers, etc., you will start to want to reinvest that and do it again and again. It really does pay off in revenue. So be not afraid of growing slowly, only of standing still, and think about progress, not perfection off the bat. What can you do that's sustainable, and what can you do to just get started? It doesn't have to be perfect. No one is expecting that of you. I hate to break it to you. We just want to see you show up and say something meaningful, not just this vanilla surface level content. I can't wait to see you in course number 2, content writing and publishing, which has a whole lot of process to it as well, where we're going to craft those bio statements and our headlines, taglines, sound bites. We're going to dive deeper into that keystone content and those topics, and then watch them just start to come to life with some automation tools at the end of the course. I will see you there. Great job. Good luck in finalizing your strategy. I encourage you to solidify it if you can before you move on to course number 2, and I will see you there.